Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. I'll be your host, Dave Trumbore, and joining me, as always, the one, the only, Sean Pyle Ellis. How's it going tonight, sir?
David, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually going to turn it right back over to you because I feel like maybe you have a special guest to introduce tonight. Take it away.
We have our mutual longtime friend and also cartoon enthusiast,
Ooh.
Alexander Capece, that's joining us tonight. Welcome, Alex. How are you doing?
Hey there, fellas. I'm doing really well. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Would have been doing better if I queued up the applause again for the second week in a row. Maybe next time we'll get around to that.
Wait, you guys have applause?
Well, we have the internet soundboard at our disposal, so yeah.
Oh, well, see, that's all right. That's pretty high dollar. I like that.
Which we
All
keep
right.
forgetting to use, but it's there somewhere.
The entire internet at our fingers. Hey guys, what cartoon did we watch this week?
Ooh, let's let our guest answer that one because he's a big fan, which is why he's on the show tonight.
Oh, well, that's absolutely fair.
Hello, boys and girls. It's your old pal, Stinky Whistleteeth.
This is the best.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, 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 happy, happy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, joy.
I wish I could really do that over because I feel like I fucked that all up. I wasn't prepared for it.
No, that was amazing. I wasn't prepared. I didn't know that was happening. That was amazing.
Yeah, that
That was the best. That was so good, Alex.
Wow.
We are,
I had
of
my one
course-
I had my one chance, and I jacked it all up.
Ah,
Okay.
don't worry about
Well, you
it.
shouldn't
We
have been
are,
jacking
of
it up while you were
course-
playing the song. That's probably why it got screwed up at the end. Need both hands, sir.
I want redemption. It will come.
Plenty of
answer
opportunity.
The question of what we are watching.
If you
this
haven't
week,
figured it
we are
out.
watching the Ren and Stimpy Show.
Woo! That is our third of the New Year's Nicktoons, one of the original three. That's good stuff. And there you go. If you didn't know that song, first of all, what's wrong with you? You should know. That's probably the most famous song
Yeah,
from
come
this entire
on,
show.
get your shit together.
You should know that. This is a much happier and less violent version. We asked Alex to smash his guitar. He politely declined, but perhaps after a few more drinks, a few more adult beverages, maybe we'll get him there. So we'll see. Stick around, see what happens. Speaking of adult beverages, I know all of us are drinking tonight. So Sean, what is your beverage of choice this evening?
Oh man, I am drinking it's called Stone Delicious IPA, and it is their gluten reduced beer. I'm not usually gluten free, but
Well,
I
you're
was
gluten
curious.
reduced, so it's not quite there.
Yeah,
It's
I
baby
know.
steps.
I was curious to give this guy a shot, and it is definitely a Stone IPA through and through. Like it is very good.
Interesting.
What are you drinking tonight, Dave?
Oh, I got another Kugel's brew. This is the Big Butt Doppelbock. Pretty much bought it just for the name. Not really impressed with it. It's okay. It's got a decent kind of malty aroma to it, as a Doppelbock should. The flavor's kind of off though. It's decent malty, but it's got a little hint of bitterness, and then I don't know. It's got some kind of funky aftertaste. I don't know if it's just this bottle or this batch. But not recommending this one, but I will be drinking it. So there you go. I'm thinking.
Oddly enough, though,
Yeah.
despite your dissatisfaction for this brew,
Mhm.
I'm gonna say the fact that the name
Yes.
is rather synergistic to this cartoon, given the fact that it's called Big Butt, and there is a odd emphasis on butts in this show.
Ooh, there's a lot of butts. There's an odd emphasis on a lot of just like weird anatomy and gross. I mean that both in the medical sense and the disgusting sense. Gross anatomy in this show. Pretty strange stuff.
For like
Actually,
2 seconds, I thought you said Grey's Anatomy, and I
yeah,
was like,
it focuses
oh,
on Grey's
no.
Anatomy. This is a precursor to Grey's Anatomy. Before I get
Well,
into the history, though.
The thing about the weird images they have in there, particular to the anatomy, is that I love the really close up shots
Yes.
that they have, where John Kay takes the time to draw like some really detailed picture cards that he lifts up Ren's eyelid, and here it is. It's disgusting and gross, and it's almost like looking at an anatomy textbook. He does such a good job with the detail. I love it.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one of the highlights of the show's animation style. Just these like still frames with usually this like creepy like foghorn kind of sound in the background, and just like and
Yep.
extreme close up on some really disgusting bits of anatomy. But since we started talking about the history and John K, do you guys know how to pronounce his last name? I can't.
Crick Falusi.
Crick Falusi.
So it's exactly how it's spelled.
Exactly.
Okay, Crick Falusi. Yeah. So let's walk through some history with Mr. John K. John Crick Falusi. Ren and Stimpy Show. Most people just know it as Ren and Stimpy. American animated television series created by a Canadian. How about that? John K. So the show premiered on August 11th, 1991, along with other Nicktoons, Rugrats, and Doug, which we've already talked about on this show. Wildly different from those two cartoons, about as different as you could probably get. Ren and Stimpy Show ran for 5 seasons, totaling 52 episodes, and it was produced by Crick Falusi's animation studio, Spumco, for at least the first 2 seasons. It got pretty good response from critics. There was a lot of controversy with it, just due to, a lot of violence, a lot of kind of like verbal beration of the two characters with each other.
The fans hated the fact that Nickelodeon fired his ass.
Right. Yeah, they tossed him. Because he actually used to voice Ren. He voiced Ren in the early goings. And then Nickelodeon got rid of him. And Billy West, who voices...
Billy West took over.
Yeah, exactly. He voiced Stimpy, and then he came in and did Ren as well. So if you watch the later seasons...
He voiced both of them up until they moved over to, was it Spike TV?
Yeah, that was later on.
And then he departed because he felt that they were relying at that point too much on toilet humor, which is amazing considering if you've watched even the first episode, you're like, this whole show is built around the idea of toilet humor.
Yeah, if you do watch them though, if you watch the spin-off,
supposed to voice both of them, but they said that he didn't want to do it because
it wasn't funny.
It would be too much of a downfall in his career if he had to voice Ren, this crazy-ass dog, and Stimpy, the happy cat.
Well, now, see, I read that he left because he just thought it wasn't funny. This was a spin-off for adult audiences called Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon, and it came on air in Spike in 2003.
Oh, the Spike TV one. No,
Yeah.
I was talking about when he first started with Spumco originally.
Gotcha. That's kind of odd because today he's basically just like, yeah, I'll just do all the voices, and you just pay me a lot more money.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, he started voicing Ren Hoek in season 3 up until they moved over to Spike. So that was for season 3, 4, 5.
Right.
He did Stimson J. Cat. We should also mention that when Billy West, because we've talked about him for the past couple weeks, he voiced Doug Funny, Pork Chop the Dog, Roger Klotz. He did Futurama. He did Philip J. Fry, Farnsworth, Dr. Zoidberg, Zap Brannigan. He does just about everything. This guy's all over the place.
Yeah, and definitely a talent that you want to have on board. But I find it funny that he was well known enough probably by the point that he moved away from this show because he didn't, like you said, he didn't want it to damage his career because he just didn't find it funny. And to be honest with you, I watched a couple shorts of the adult cartoon, Adult Party, whatever it was called, and it's not funny at all. It's kind of like a seedy kind of underground cartoon that it's basically just for like juvenile boys. Like it's got nudity and it's got like overt kind of like homosexuality, but not in any kind of redeeming fashion whatsoever. It's just like easy jokes and just a lot of just grotesque.
Okay, but stuff. There was a lot of toilet humor as well as implied homosexuality in the original series to begin with.
Right.
But he was evidently cool when it was implied, but when they stated with Ren saying I'm the pitcher and pointing to Stimpy and going, you're the catcher, that's where he drew the line.
See, but there's
also,
the difference between
Billy
implying
West,
that and then having
Space Jam, you asshole. What did you think was gonna hurt your career more? Ren and Stimpy's adult cartoon hour or fucking Space Jam, you asshole?
Billy West, we'd love to have you on the show if you're listening. There's a difference between implying things like that and having Ren strap a saw blade to his penis and then saw a log on Stimpy's ass.
Everybody's done it, Dave.
Very different situation. But anyway, so people didn't really like that 2003 spinoff. It was canceled fairly quickly.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about
Sean,
the original on Nickelodeon.
Actually, I do want to talk about that.
Right,
Did you
Sean,
watch it at all?
Didn't you buy me that for a Christmas present one year? You bought me Ren and Stimpy the Lost
The
Episode?
cock saw? You bought him a cock saw?
Oh well then I must have bought myself a copy because I definitely have one as well.
Oh, are you serious?
And I love the hell out of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I
watched some of it today in preparation for this because I was so excited about the idea of Ren and Stimpy that I wanted to watch some more of the Lost episodes. The ones
Yes,
that Nickelodeon refused to air because they had
I
tits in them.
yeah, I will say to the point of tits, the way John Kay draws women with like the like
The impossibly
oddly
tiny waist and the impossibly huge hips.
like, but
The
I have to
the
say
Nicki
this like
Minaj looking fucking chicks that you love so much there, Sean.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I like they are they are so over sexualized like to the idea of like yeah, I mean I forget what it was. It was a documentary on like pornography that I was reading about, but the fact that like things are so big in pornography is like this almost like superhero like epic idea that we have mentally of how people are built or like genitals in general. And like John Kay does that in this, but he also does it in a way that's like it's very soft and feminine for women. It's attractive. I love that style.
Right. Well, I mean, but this is not a new thing because you have to. You look at all right, the woman that were painted on the side of World War II bombers. Yes, they had humongous cans and they had little tiny waists and they were just these like beautiful little Betty-looking characters. And
This
then
is why we
he's
won
just
the war.
brought this into wow, wow. So John Kay has just brought this into his own cartoon style, but it's not a new thing. It's not like he's creating something different. You look at your comic books. I mean, how are you in any way surprised by this? Because you always look at you always have your comic book characters who are that ridiculously tiny waist. I mean, Batgirl. How does she even
Exist?
stand up straight?
Right.
It's just
I
she
mean,
must
yeah,
have
I mean,
the
it's a
most,
good-
the
it's a
most
good
terrible
point, but-
lower back spinal process in the world. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean it's a great point. The only response that I have to that is that like 11-year-old me when I was watching this was just like
Didn't understand.
didn't understand
Biology?
that, wasn't able to
Yeah.
make that like that assertion and didn't have that basis for a comparison. And so looking at this back when I was 11 and looking at this now, like I'm nostalgically attracted to that idea. And I find it's that style, that art style is hypersexual, but also just very attractive to me.
Are you guys familiar with the work of Crumb,
I mean,
cartoonist?
That's fair.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, that's kind of the first thing I thought of when I saw these new or lost episodes, whatever you want to call them. I felt like that was kind of his. Maybe he was inspired by him at some point along the way. I'm just amazed, having seen Crick Falusi's work to that level, that Nickelodeon allowed any of this to air on TV whatsoever, even if it was a watered down version of his kind of his vision. It's amazing that they let this on TV at all with Rugrats and Doug. It just makes zero sense that
Right.
they decided that, oh yeah, this is totally fine. This is gonna be fine. And kudos to them. That's great.
So I mean, we should say that like this, if for anybody who has not watched Ren and Stimpy, why? Followed
Right.
by the whole series focuses on a psychopathic Chihuahua named Ren Hoek and Stimpson
Ren
J.
Hoek.
Cat.
Quick.
Please,
Ren
please,
Hoek.
you have to bring it back into your throat because
Yeah.
there's an umlaut there and a K and hook. Oh,
Quick.
So Ren Hoek.
Quick.
there you go.
And Stimpson J. Cat, who is quite possibly the most empathetic character, and has the best intentions, but just the poorest execution in every way, shape, or form.
And let's just say that this is an abusive relationship as well.
Oh
Let's
my
get
God,
that
this
out
is
of the
like
way because
that. This is like watching this like this week. I was like, oh my God, like this is terrible. Like somebody
Yeah.
like Stimpy should have like packed his things and like ran out of this. Like this, if he thought to himself like I'm gonna change him, like oh boy, like you got another thing coming, buddy.
But you have to remember, episode number one,
Mhm.
when he comes back, he knows that he's getting slapped in the face. He knows he's getting an ass beating
He
because
fucking
they
leans
went,
into it,
loves
too.
He
$7
loves it.
million, you idiot!
You
And he
fat,
looks up,
bloated
breaks the
sack.
fourth wall. He winks, and he knows this is where he likes it. He's in, man.
He's in it for it.
I with all of so just like as an idea with this, like I
Mhm.
wonder if this was developed out of like like I don't know, maybe like a fetish that John Kay had, or because I mean this is some real like weird sub-dom shit.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got some
I would not
issues along the
expect from
way,
a child show.
but he was influenced by Bob Clampett, the Looney Tunes, the Merry Melodies, a lot of those kinds
Yes.
of work. So I think this is kind of his idea of almost like a satire, like a heightened extreme of those, the cat and mouse parodies, the cat and mouse cartoons, Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, any of the things where it's like a hunter and the hunted or predator and prey, but they're always
Just
kind of
the
tied together.
hyperbole for entertainment.
Exactly. But this is like it's got an extra level to it because it's not just cat and dog in like an antagonistic relationship. They're actually like in a relationship and living together and talking to each other
Oh
and
no,
having
this no,
emotional
this
investment.
this transcends the realm of hunter and hunted from physically chasing one another to emotionally abusive,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think that's what makes it so intriguing.
And I think that has to be
Because
drawn in
there's
part
some
from
dark
his
shit in here.
yeah, from his sort of fandom, his appreciation of those older cartoons, but then also he probably wanted to just flip that on its head. I wish we would have looked for like an interview or something with him. Maybe he's talked about this along the way, but it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to say that like he was inspired by those cartoons, but he wanted to invert it for this show because this show does that in a big way. It's also fucking insane. It's completely insane.
Yes,
Uh,
it is.
I have to say, out of all the because this is episode 34 now, out of
ooh,
34 shows that we have talked about, this is the one that I was waiting for,
Really?
that I was more excited than anything to watch. I was also extremely nervous when I sat down to watch
Right.
this week because what if it didn't hold up? And I was going out of my mind, and then finally I
How
messaged
long did
Alex.
it take you to realize that you were completely wrong in worrying about that?
Episode 1, as soon as it started up, I had the biggest smile on my face from the moment this started, and like I can't gush enough about this. Like I have so many distinct memories, not just about the show itself and the things that happened in the show, but the events in my life that were happening like at that time. Like I've mentioned this, like I used to watch Nicktoons like on Sunday mornings, like with my dad,
Sure.
my sister all the time. My dad to this day uses the term gritty kitty like whenever he wants to reference something that like is like coarse in like touch, or like like if you
or that you love to
if you,
squish
like,
between your toes, or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Mm.
right.
Like if you were to if you like press down on your brakes, and let's say like your brake pads are like towards the end of it, and like they kind of have like that little bit of like a grit or like a catching feeling when you depress
As
the
the
brake.
rotor starts to wear away into nothingness and Sean wears away into the ditch.
and reveals the
Yeah.
gritty kitty
Yeah, no,
innards
no,
of
no.
all brake pads. Yes.
And so like my dad calls that, he's like yeah, he's like that gritty kitty brake feel, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking
It stays
about?
crunchy even in milk.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
What was that?
So I mean, yeah, I was
that was when
That
he-
was a
when he-
squeal.
Oh,
when
that's
Ren
your
writes the-
Stimpy squeal.
when
That was
Ren
good.
writes the
I
last
thought you like
line
stepped
of
on a
the
nail
song.
or something. I was concerned.
No, I was just having a really good time listening to Sean talk about watching with his dad and thinking about his dad referencing it, because that's also the memory that I have.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until I watched actually the entire first season. I put it on today and watched the whole thing, and I didn't realize how many things that I still use with my father to this day that came from Ren and Stimpy.
Oh yeah.
Everything from the very simple "you idiot" to Dr. Stupid's patented Stupometron helmet and "you sick little monkey," and just dumb
So
things that we
good.
have, little inside jokes back and forth that have survived from the early 90s, that when we were first watching the show.
Yeah. Every once in a
So,
while, I try to work in a Mr. Horse line with a "No, sir, I don't like it." But
No, sir,
nobody
I don't
knows
like
what
it.
I'm talking about because this was 23 years ago and nobody remembers, and it's very unfortunate.
the 2 episodes that I watched that had Mr.
Oh,
Horse.
he's so good.
After the first time, I almost cried, and then like the second time in what was it, the Firehouse episode, when it happened again, and they asked him, they're just like, "So, Mr. Horse, how did you feel about that fall?" And like when he went through like the physicality of like getting ready to answer it, and then the zoom in on his butt with the tail moving back and forth, and then the no sir, didn't like it. Like like I already knew, like I knew what the joke was, and like having, and that's what a lot of, that's what I feel like a lot of this show was like they set up these distinct character patterns, and then if you were a longtime fan,
Right.
like sitting in and watching one episode, you'd be like, I don't fucking get what this
Right.
is. But like if you were a long-term fan and you watched it, like which is why this gains a cult following. Like there's a payoff. Like there's a reason
There
to
is.
continue
Yep.
watching, and it's so rewarding.
Yeah, and speaking of cult following, I feel like maybe the variety aspect of this show is actually probably a big reason for that because it changed it up enough throughout the course of the half hour that you had two kind of main stories, but you also had a lot of these interstitials. Now, Sean has this ongoing theory and this ongoing study about the cartoons that we watched, their intro and their theme songs, and how that sort of lends information to the viewers about what the show is going to be like. I'd like to Sean, if he could take a moment to maybe kind of talk about the music of the show, maybe talk about the intro, maybe talk about some of the early songs we get from even the first episode of this show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the different types of theme songs that we've talked about, this qualifies as being a clips show because, or a clips intro, in terms of the theme, because a lot of these were from the, oh my gosh, what episode was it from? Where they're at the pound, or wasn't actually like something
That was
that
the pilot.
showed, right?
It wasn't. That
Oh, it wasn't
never
like an
actually
aired
aired on
pilot.
That was the
Nickelodeon.
episode
Oh,
made
interesting.
Nickelodeon one.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So, so that episode alone,
VH3.
yeah, like going back and having watched that episode now, like there is like it is glaringly obvious that there is like a sexual relationship between them.
Oh, yeah.
But like just watching the episode or just watching the theme song, like I don't even know how you describe the music. Is it jazz?
It's kind of like
Is it kinda-
rockabilly.
Yeah.
I've seen rockabilly. That's probably the closest I can describe to it because it's kind of like a lot of fast
You
guitar
mean the
riffs.
intro?
The
yeah,
what, sorry?
and the intro theme song.
Yeah, yeah. Would you have a different way of describing it? Let me see what they got on Wikipedia because they talk about the music a lot
it's
too.
it's kind of a jazz thing because it absolutely has a bass line that goes for
Oh
a
yeah,
walk.
yeah, yeah.
But
Right.
if you've got you've got the little bit of the scatting from the guitar, and that's, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to call it, but if the closest thing I'd have would be jazz, sure.
I always thought jazz or like the way that the word that I always use to describe the intro music for this show is spastic.
Spastic
like-
jazz.
Yeah, spastic jazz. Like it's
my
just
favorite
it's
subgenre.
kind of crazy, and I think again it's very hard because like
Seizure music.
it gives you a little bit of an idea in terms of I want to say maybe the mental state
Oh, yeah.
for some of the characters that are in the show because like there's just a lot of like those kind of like Rorschach tests with like Ren in front of them like kind of pointing or looking like maniacal, and so you kind of get the feeling that like he's going to be a very high status he's going to be a very high status aggressive character in this show,
Right.
and that Stimpy is going to be a little bit more playful or diminutive. And so, I mean, it's very hard because it's hard with intros that don't have an actual song,
Right.
like lyrics
Lyrics
to
or
them.
anything, right?
And as a clip show, it's fun, but it's a little bit different. I think it sets kind of like the fun, playful tone that I'm sure Nickelodeon was looking for. But
Yeah.
in terms of understanding sort of the underlying motifs or themes behind this show, like it kind of delves into because I've summed up the themes that I thought of this show into 3 P's, which was poverty, perversion, and psychological disorders. And it really only hits at maybe the psychological disorder aspect because you don't really get the
No.
perverse or like the extreme poverty that like Ren and Stimpy seem to volley back and forth between
Right.
throughout the show. And so it does a decent job in terms of like playful tone and introduction of maybe how these characters are going to act, but I mean like you have little to no idea of what the actual substance is going to be when you jump into it.
I mean, playful nothing. I think that scattered, disjointed characters are going to have a scattered, disjointed intro, and John K. put together what he believed would make it through Nickelodeon's censors.
Yeah, exactly.
However, he did a really great job of still conveying to us the fact that this is going to be a fucked up show.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that,
There's gonna be people literally peeled off the sidewalk with a spatula, and people slamming their butts together while wearing spaceman helmets. There's a lot of stuff in there that I don't know how he made it past the censors. I don't know if they were out or drunk that day, but
What am I telling you? This show is so butt-centric. I love it.
it does love butts.
yes,
It does
there is a
love butts.
lot. There's a lot of butts going on in this business.
This show has voted yes on prop butt.
On prop butt.
But I don't know where to go with that one. Alex dug up an
Yeah.
interesting factoid since we're still talking about the music and the theme song here. Do you remember the name of the band and who actually performed these theme songs? This is for Alex because you brought it up. Do you remember it? Do you have it in front of you still?
So Spumco,
Yeah, the
John
animation studio.
Belushi's production
Right.
company, they actually had a band which I believe is called Die Flaming Lederhosen.
Screaming, but close enough.
I'm sorry, Screaming.
Oh, good.
Damn it.
Either one. We'll do
Maybe
a
Screaming, one of them.
we'll do a tribute band called Die Flaming Lederhosens.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do we have to perform while we're actually on
Yeah,
fire?
it's gonna be a real quick show.
Man, you really go hard when you go, don't you?
Real
All
quick
right.
show. Yep.
Yeah, we're like 27 minutes in. We're going to cap it at 28 with our deaths.
Yep. Sorry, guys. This will be the last episode. Thanks for joining us, Alex. But yeah, so the theme song might be memorable once you actually watch it. Like, I had a hard time remembering it until it kicked in. Then I was like, okay, now I got it. It was kind of like that way with the entire series, though. Like, as they would set jokes up, I would laugh before the punchline even hit. Like, when the first time Mr. Horse appears, Stimpy sets it up, and I remembered who it was going to be, and I just started laughing already. Like, there was nothing funny going on, but I remembered who it was going to be, and I already stared laughing.
No, I did the exact same thing. I was
Yeah.
surprised how much
Oh,
of
yeah.
the songs from the commercials and how much of the individual lines that I remembered from different characters.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's one very, very famous and memorable song, which I believe is
Let's get in
Sean's
this.
favorite, and everybody probably knows it. So feel free to
Oh
sing
my
along at home
God.
or in the car.
This is not only is this the most memorable song that's on here, but it's like how they kick off
Yeah.
the first episode.
I had
with
no
Stimpy's
idea it
Big
was
Day.
that
Like,
early. No idea it was going to be that
No,
early.
I don't remember it either. Like it was something that like they jumped into right out the gate,
Mhm.
and as soon as I heard the theme music, I had a smile on my face. And then when the log commercial came up, and we are of course talking about log,
Yeah.
from Blammo, I could not have had a bigger smile. So I'm gonna do the dramatic reading for this.
Ooh.
So this is what rolls downstairs, alone or in pairs, and over your neighbor's dog. What's great for a snack, and fits on your back? It's log, log, log. It's log, it's log. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's log, it's log. It's better than bad, it's good. Everyone wants a log. You're gonna love it, log. Come on and get your log. Everyone needs a log. Log, log, log. Log from Blammo.
I want to know. Very well done, by the way. Thank you so much for
Thank
that
you so
rendition.
much.
I hope we brought back some good memories to you folks. Obviously, that's like a send off from the pet rock of like the '70s or whatever. It's also just ridiculous, but it's probably the most memorable thing from the show. If you mention anything, people are probably like, "Oh yeah,
Well, because
log."
they do such a good job of calling back to it
Yeah,
multiple
times.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I feel like
My favorite part was the theme, the girl log, like the Barbie's special log.
Oh, right, with the wig.
Powered log. Yeah.
GI log.
GI log, yeah. Well, they knew.
Multiple logs.
They had to know after that first episode. They were like, okay, this is just going to be kind of like a silly thing, a throwaway thing. We're going to make fun of the pet rock.
Right.
We're going to show that it's a variety show, and we're going to have some like quote unquote product placement for made up shit that's ridiculous. And then people probably gravitated toward that and were like singing it or talking about it. So I'm assuming that's why it came back on. That's why they kind of kept up with the Blammo stuff. Did you guys have any other favorite?
I wonder if they
Yeah.
actually planned that log would become a thing.
I can't imagine they would. They were probably just like, Pet Rock was stupid. This thing is stupid. Let's make fun of it and just roll on with the show. No pun intended.
And then next episode we'll make hey, here's Stick.
Yeah,
The
right.
pocket version of logs, you know?
Pocket version. But
The portable version.
what were your guys' kind of favorite either mini shows within the show, which we'll talk about here because we've watched a couple in these episodes, but just anything that you remember from either the other product placement like board games or any of the other stuff, just because it was so wacky and wild and imaginative. Do you have favorites?
As far as show within a show, I would say Ask Dr. Stupid.
Okay. Tell the folks about that. Yeah.
That for me. So Ask Dr. Stupid was the little segment in the middle where you would have Stimpy sitting at a desk and somebody would write in, "Why do I have to go to school?" And he would put on his patented Stupometron helmet,
Right.
which would be this ridiculous contraption with the light bulb. He'd poke
So
himself
good.
in the fucking eye, and then all of a sudden he would spit out the answer. And my absolute favorite, another thing I still reference with my father, was, "Dear Dr. Stupid, why do I have to go to school?" "Well, hang on." Beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop. Pokes himself in the eye. "Well, you have to go to school because your parents are aliens, and when you're in school, they shed their human skin and eat dryer lint." And this is just everything that he said was so ridiculous, and they actually even had the narrator of the show take over. He was trying to give an answer and just cut Stimpy completely off.
Right.
And it was delightful. So that was my favorite show within a show. But then as far as the advertisements go, don't go Whiz on the Electric
Yes.
Fence.
Oh yeah.
It's still my favorite fictional board game. Does it exist?
I
Does
hope
anyone
it
Google
does. There has to be like so many lawsuits tied up with that, but it's just an amazing
Whatever.
board game.
Somebody get on the internet machine quickly. Let's see if we can find Don't Go Whiz on the Electric Fence. And if not, I think we should invent it.
I'll leave that one up
This
to
is
you.
how we make our millions.
I'll leave that one up to you because I'm not gonna. I've already getting electrocuted enough on a daily basis here at the podcast. So
That's.
I mean,
that's great.
I love the fact that like "Don't Whiz on the Electric Fence" again is another beautiful moment where they just have like their own specific theme song.
Yeah.
And it's like when nature's calling, don't be stalling. Use your common sense before you let it flow. Find a place to let it go. Just don't whiz on the electric fence.
I love it. I love that so much. I would play that game. I think that'd be a really good
It kind of
party
almost,
game.
it almost had like the same sense or kind of feeling like what was that like song that like you would like if you're sliding into third and you feel like you know
like that
you
playground
Diarrhea.
kind of the
yeah,
playground
yeah, it was like the
songs.
diarrhea
Right,
song.
right.
It's the diarrhea song.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it was. Just the
Like, the
same
second
maturity
verse-
level, just with a
The second
fictional
verse
company
is like
behind
if
it.
you're gonna explode and you are if you're going to explode, you can use the commode of igloos, cave dwellings, or tents. Like it's just no need to explain when. You just gotta drain. Don't whiz on the electric
It's
fence.
just glorious. It's glorious. Sean, did you have a
It's
favorite?
perfect.
Any favorite memories of the kind of weird side stuff, or even characters too? We can get into them later.
Oh, character-wise?
Well, let's save that for now
Gosh,
because there's a lot of cool
I-
ones to talk about, but they might be tied in
Well, I mean-
depending on.
Well, yeah. I think the whole like the whole breakfast
Yes.
component, like there was that whole like Stimpy's
Powdered Toast Man.
and which is exactly what I'm moving into, Alex, is Powdered Toast Man. I think was like one of my favorite characters within the show. I think it was again. This show is so like derriere centric, like with like the whole idea that like he's a superhero that flies backwards.
Yes.
That like his face is two pieces of toast.
Powdered toast.
Like powdered toast that look like they're kind of like stacked one in front of the other, like you would put them in a toaster. And his phrase to like if somebody was to fly with him, like Superman just picks people up and takes them with
Yeah,
him.
whether
It's
you want
just
to
like,
or not. Yeah.
Yeah, like you figure it out. I don't give a shit if you're afraid of heights.
Wow,
Powdered
is
Toast
he
Man.
a powdered toast rapist, man? Whether you want to or not?
Well, no, that's
That's
Superman.
Superman's.
Powdered Toast Man. He just goes clench tenaciously to my buttocks, and then just like
Yeah.
shoots
Both of
into
them?
the sky. Yes, buttocks.
Buttums.
Buttocks.
You have on
Well,
Tim
that's what
Buttums.
Stimpy asks one time when he says,
Yeah.
cling tenaciously to my buttocks. Both of them? Yes,
Both- yeah,
absolutely.
Both of them. God, it's like it's so. I don't know what it is. Like I Snippy had the breakfast like tip where like you could pour out a whole box of cereal to get to the prize, And like
Oh yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
Oh,
mean
at which
I
point,
I
like
love
Ren, just a quick aside, since we talked about this abusive relationship and then kind of got away from it. At which point, Ren basically threatens his life if he comes home and finds another box of
out of
cereal
a
open.
bowl of sugar,
Yeah,
out of a
Right.
bowl of sugar
yeah,
threatens him.
out of this tiny ass bowl of sugar. It's just so bizarre. It's so strange. Ah. But yeah, continue with that scene. I think you wanted to finish up with that.
No, it's just like Stimpy has like a breakfast tip. Ren sort of has a breakfast moment where he introduces Powdered Toast
Right.
Man. Just, I mean, I think about when I was watching these cartoons. Like this came on at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, and I was probably still like eating breakfast, or I was thinking about getting like a second bowl of
Heck
cereal at
yeah.
that point, or a third
Right.
bowl, or so I mean it
You
was.
wanted some cinnamon toast
Yeah,
crunch.
I guarantee you did, because I
Yeah,
did,
why
and
not?
everybody did. I'm sure that sold real well when Powdered Toast Man came on the scene.
So I mean, it was just I just and the idea of a character that just has like he has like a giant PTM like on
His
his
crotch.
briefs, like over like he's got a giant T over top of like where his powdered toast dick
Yeah.
is, and so like it's just I don't know what it is. It was just it was very funny, and I mean it was unique. It was like it was odd and unique at that time, and so it was something that like I just thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah,
Right.
tied into that breakfast actually, because that very same sequence where Stimpy is showing kids how to like get the prize out of a cereal bowl or a cereal box,
Uh-huh.
his
Oh,
prize.
hello there.
Yeah, do you remember? Oh, hello, friends. Yeah, do you remember his? Do you remember the cereal prize? Because this leads into my next favorite kind of like inter-show show.
Yeah, of course. It was a Muddy Mudskipper cereal bowl caddy.
Yeah, Muddy Mudskipper cereal bowl.
Yeah,
Caddy.
the prize. Yeah, the prize is a caddy. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and the cereal was like XOX. I don't
Yep.
understand what that was, but yeah. So the prize is a Muddy Mudskipper caddy that you put on the side of your bowl. What the hell's Muddy Mudskipper? Oh, it's just like the biggest cartoon star within this cartoon world. The first episode actually introduces Stimpy just kind of like watching this show on his own TV with his bloodshot eyes.
Unk.
I love that though, because that intro is just like Ren kind of just walks in, basically slaps Stimpy, and then opens his head up and shows him that that TV is shrinking his brain, and then just kind of like flushes his brain within his own head.
And then flushes his brain back
That's so
into
bizarre.
wherever the hell it goes.
But that is like that show is just grabbing you by the short hairs and just being like, "Pay attention, we're doing crazy shit." But I love
Yep.
the Muddy the Mudskipper show because not only was it like a Woody Woodpecker kind of knockoff, but just a ridiculous creature with no reason to have a show, but just completely absurd and hilarious. And then you
But
actually
he's, but
meet
he's
him
so
later on.
disgruntled and
Yes,
shitty. Like he
exactly.
when he's on screen, he's on.
Right.
And he's fun and cool, and then when he gets off, he's Krusty the Clown,
Oh, yeah.
kind of, you
You lousy
bastard."
bum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically
Lousy
smoking
bum,
cigars.
that's what
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
called
yeah, lousy bum. And I love that because it wasn't just like a one note like, oh, here's a mock of Woody Woodpecker. It's Muddy the Mudskipper. They actually go that extra
Right.
step and show him quote unquote behind the scenes making fun of Stimpy and all kinds of stuff. And it's like just that
Yep.
level of like dedication to that character to actually like want to go through with that. I don't know. I loved it as a kid. I really appreciate it now, and that's just one of the ones that sticks out to me. Do you guys want to get
Dave.
into the other characters? Yeah.
Dave, I mean, to
Alright,
continue with that
I'm sorry,
logic.
just to jump off of Sean's Powdered Toast Man thing,
Yeah.
I did want to point out the fact that did you guys watch or do you remember the episode where Powdered Toast Man saves the Pope?
Save this
Yes.
Pope.
Yes.
Did he have the Pope mobile?
Who voiced the Pope? Does anybody remember
I
that?
don't even remember that
No, I
episode.
don't know. Who was
You're
it?
gonna have to tell us.
Frank Zappa.
Really?
What?
That makes the most sense for this show. That honestly.
Because it's the most
Yeah,
absurd.
Spot
Yeah,
on.
exactly. That makes the most sense for this
Because
show.
it's the most absurd answer. No, Frank Zappa, one of my musical inspirations, one of my heroes who I loved so much. He made it onto actually I think a couple episodes of Ren and Stimpy. He voiced the Pope, and I just the list of people who ended up on here I think is pretty impressive as far
Just
as
the voice cast. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the voice cast goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
I didn't even get to look at the voice cast, to be honest with you. It's like the characters stick out in my mind way more than the voices and stuff do, but
Yeah.
Right.
did you guys want to get
I
into
mean,
the characters? Sean, I know you had another
Dave,
point.
Just before we move on to the characters and maybe some of the episodes, like, with your whole idea about Muddy Mudskipper, I mean, just being such a great character. I mean, it really begs the question. Like, I'm sure a lot of scholars have thought about this for like years and decades and centuries. Like, who who's the greatest mud skipper of them all?
Mm. It's
I mean, who can skip through the mud with the greatest of
a timeless
ease?
question.
What kind of wonderful guy?
Hmm.
Who can crawl with a dog? Who can crawl like a dog without scraping his knees? Who's got segmented eyes?
Let's stop there for a second because
Segmented
that
eyes.
creeped me
I
out
love
so
that
much,
shit.
and his eyes just like stalk, like they grow on stalks right out of his head. Creepy stuff. Please continue.
Right?
You know, I know. The funny thing that entertained the hell out of me
Yeah.
was that like we talked about back in like the Popples episode about
Oof.
the concept of I know
It's a rough
of
memory.
hammer space
Yes.
is sort of like this cartoon air like
What? I
void
love
that
hyperspace.
Yeah, not
is-
popples so
that-
much.
it's-
Just
it's
clear
a
the
great
air.
concept.
We hate popples.
It's my favorite physical quality about any animated
Right.
show.
except for Popples.
Except for
Popples are
popples.
garbage.
It's terrible.
So it was really funny that like in these first couple episodes, in episode 1 and 2, uh, Stimpy had his own hammer space, and it was inside of his like kitty litter box.
Oh right.
Like he could like manifest anything that he needed
Just
within
buried
that
down
space.
in his
And, like,
litter, yeah.
just watching that, I was like, oh my god! I was like, I love this so much. Whereas like looking at it from the Popple sense, I was like, fuck these Popples. I hate them.
Even if they did it first, it doesn't matter.
Like these things are the fucking these things are the bane of my existence. I hate these fucking
I
things.
feel like
still
they should
own-
have been like satirized or something on this show. They should have just been like a race of terrible
They should have
creatures that
made
they just
popples?
murdered. Yeah, they should have just had like murder popples just showing up on Ren and Stimpy
My
somewhere.
my absolute favorite hammer space moment is in one of the earlier episodes when they decide to try and get some money by having Ren pretend to be the mouse
Yes.
and
It's so nuts.
Have
It's
Stimpy-
so crazy.
get the mouse when he sneaks into the house and you've got that dun 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 dun
Right.
and
The
they're
Nutcracker Suite
sneaking
playing
into
on
the
this.
house,
Yeah, yeah.
and he pulls out the beaver and he pulls the starter cord and the beaver
Oh,
starts up like a chainsaw and he
Right.
my favorite is reverse hammer space when he's able to fit an entire beaver into his pocket and just pack it away and it just disappears and no one notices that Ren now has a gas-powered beaver in his pocket.
Look, I will put
Back
this
to that
theory
hammer
forward.
space where you came from.
I feel like they don't pull things from hammer space. This entire show takes place in hammer space because
In
they don't
hammer-
even like this show is just in hammer space because they can literally go into space. They can change size, they can change scale, they can pull things out of nowhere. Things come
Right.
out of nowhere. Physics make no sense in this world. Anything can happen. It's literally anything can happen. So
That's
they're
perfect.
in hammer space. You can have like flying weird whale creatures just going across the sky and just like singing, or you can have talking dogs, or Mr. Horse will come on, or
Or
pretty
the
much anything you want.
toaster's floating past you as you realize that like everything changes every couple minutes when you pass through a black hole.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Do you remember, like one was carrying one in the kangaroo pocket like a marsupial, and then all of a sudden he had claw hands like a crab. Yeah,
It's
weird.
twisted
It is-
stuff.
it-
It is
yeah,
a
very
real
strange.
mind trip. Some of these episodes, man. You got to kind of watch them sober the first time, and then maybe go back a little heightened one way or the other because it's
I
kind of
actually
crazy.
feel a little confused, not being able to smoke weed anymore. I'm just.
Yeah,
I don't
things
feel
aren't
like
as
I can
clear as they
identify
used to
with
be,
the
right?
world. Right.
Ren and Stimpy doesn't make as much sense as it used to.
Because I definitely used to watch this shit when, when it was college,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we could still do this, but no, not no mo.
Not no more. Unless
Not
you're
as
living-
adults.
Not no mo.
Yeah,
as
not
they
as
say.
Alex-
employed folk.
So Alex began to talk about episode. It was season 1, episode 3.
Mhm.
Some of the episodes are divided into like half episodes.
Right.
And the episode that we're referencing where Ren poses as a rat is called "The Boy Who Cried Rat."
Right.
And
Mhm.
man, I forgot at the very end, and so it's a very like Tom and Jerry
Mhm.
cat chasing a mouse scenario. But the twist is with this, or the tilt is that like Stimpy catches Ren, and the people who they are attempting to con in this instance are just like, well, aren't you gonna eat that rat?
Right.
Like, why don't you chew on that rat? And
And we'll
that
watch.
scene,
Yeah.
Yep.
that fucking
Oh, with the
scene,
teeth.
like, oh my god!
So there's a
Like,
scene where
the gold tooth and the wooden tooth.
the wooden tooth with the splinters and the nails sticking out of it. Okay, so to set this up for the viewers who maybe don't remember this one, so like you said, Stimpy catches the rat, which is Ren, and he pops him in his mouth, and he starts to kind of like try to chew on him to show the the what do they call them? They have a name for higher
Mr.
mammals.
and Mrs. Hope or
Yeah,
something
higher
like that.
mammal.
Yeah, but they call them like higher mammals too. He's like, look out, Stimpy, it's a higher mammal when the like humans chase him away or whatever. But so he's trying to like pretend like he's chewing on him without actually doing it, and Ren is just getting like grated back and forth through these giant like sawing teeth. And like Sean
Mr. and
mentioned, there's
Mrs. Pipe.
Mr. Mr.
Yep.
Mrs. Pike.
Yep.
Okay, who you never see. You only see their like knees down, from
Right.
their knees down, kind of like that old the Peanuts kind of motif there. But it's just
Which Dave, I want to interject and sidebar really quick
Please do.
that like the guy who that they reference as a higher mammal,
Yeah.
that is like the first time that you ever meet a character on this show by the name of George Liquor.
right, exactly.
And, like, and George and George,
American.
and George Liquor just he looks at you, he goes, "A man works hard for his filth," and you're just like, I love
love George
anything
Liquor.
you're selling to me, George Liquor. Just do it.
And he comes back like he's another one of those recurring characters, isn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
George Liquor comes back in a couple. It's just it's very challenging because like they don't really reference. I think he comes back in either Son of Stimpy or Fake Dad. I didn't get that far in season 1, but
Yeah.
it's like he's
It's not Son of
nuts.
Stimpy because that's the one with the fart that he
Okay.
loves so much. But it's the one where they
Gotcha.
train
Oh, I
them.
remember that, yeah.
Where he trains them both as dogs, and so he calls them not as a Cornish Rex cat, which is what Stimpy is, but he calls them a Cornish Rex hound.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Now,
Okay.
speaking of dogs, I know we're getting not real short on time here, but I want to make sure that Alex has time to talk about one of his favorite episodes. That would
Oh
be.
no, I'm good.
What do you mean you're
No,
good?
no, let's get into this,
Nah, we
buddy.
want to talk about this
because
because I
want to
watched
as
this
well.
one too. Yeah. It was great. So I'm gonna let you kind of like
Oh,
take the
okay.
lead on this one. You're the lead dog for this talk.
I'm the lead dog.
Yes,
Oh
sir.
shit.
Yeah.
And
All right.
I want to set you on fire.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that's fucked up, man, and
No,
all
no,
you
for the-
viewers, you will see why in just a minute.
For
here.
the show, it's just for the
So-
show. Set your lederhosen on fire. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
makes sense.
One of the reasons I was so excited to do this episode,
Mhm.
and one of the reasons that I loved Ren and Stimpy so much early on, is because I always wanted to be a fireman, and so I actually am a firefighter and paramedic in Washington D.C. But this, you know, this
Even the
was
Red
this
Power
was-
Ranger.
Yeah, watch
Yes,
out for that
apparently
Megazord out there.
Me and Austin St. John, we don't work for the same department, but I also don't have his super cool, red dinosaur fucking running around.
If you meet him, please invite him on the show because we want to talk Power Rangers someday. Yes, I know it's not a cartoon. We'll figure it out later.
Hey, don't worry about
Apologize
it.
for cutting you
But
off,
if
Alex.
I
Please
find
continue.
him, I will absolutely invite him on the show
So-
because
Oh,
I
I
think
can't
that's
wait.
phenomenal.
Please continue.
So, my absolute favorite episode, for obvious reasons,
Mhm.
now that the listeners know what I do, is Fire Dogs, and so that's the fourth episode. It is the, I believe, first
Yep.
segment of episode 4 because they always break them into kind of half and half,
Correct.
and there was just something about, okay, what do you see? Dirty black spots. Cool. Shut up and look stupid. All right. And then there's just this fat woman who's on the 39th floor of a 40-story building that's on fire. Save my baby! Save my dog! Save my walrus! Save my horse! Save me! And the thing that always cracks me up is that when she jumps out the window onto the ladder that Stimpy has extended and Ren is on the very tip of, from a fireman's perspective, okay, you've got a fat lady here, but she is actually descending so fast that she starts to have the flames shoot
Yeah,
past
it's like
her
a heat
butt
like a
as if
heat
she's
shield.
re-entering the atmosphere.
Exactly.
Yep. like a fucking Apollo capsule. She's got fire shooting out of her ass.
And there's the obvious like butt centric moment
Yep,
where you're just
more
like,
butts.
I'm
Again.
seeing every single person that has
Again.
jumped out of this window's butt
See all the
multiple
butts.
times.
Yep.
And every time I lose it at that, but I will bring it back to Dave's mention of, yes, at the beginning of it, you have the horse who
Oh, yeah.
says, "No, sir, I don't like it." He falls, breaks both of his legs, and agonizingly crawls a little way until somebody says, "Excuse me, sir, what did you think about that fall?" "No, sir, I didn't like it." And then he goes right back to,
Just crawling
Screaming
slowly
in
across the
agony.
screen with his broken legs.
absolutely screaming in agony.
He's such a great character. I love that scene though because the fat lady's throwing all her fat creatures out, and Ren and Stimpy are trying to catch it or get out of the way or whatever.
Right.
And I love the fact that when Ren goes up to try to like save her, tiny little toothpick-sized Ren rescues this fat
Right.
one, and he basically
She just jumps.
well, he just like no, he passes out though, doesn't he? Because she picks him up.
She
And she's
puts
like,
him in his. She puts him in
yeah.
her teeth.
She's like, oh, my hero, and she picks him up and she's like, oh no, and puts him in her mouth, and then just dives down this ladder. And then the best part,
He saves her,
Oh, okay.
and they re-enter the atmosphere at a apparently survivable, mile per hour rate. But then when they hit the ground,
oh, that's what it was. Okay,
she realizes that he's blue.
yeah,
And so she starts to do CPR, and then it's one of those beautiful moments,
Yes.
like we were talking about earlier, where he wakes up as she's doing mouth to mouth and looks up at her, and then we, as the viewer,
Oh.
get all of a sudden, meow,
She is
like,
grotesque.
disgusting, like
that
weird
like
hair sticking
tugboat
out.
horn noise.
Oof.
Yeah,
It's gonna
but
haunt my
she's-
dreams.
but she's disgusting, and she's just got all these. It's one of those still frames that John Kay did the high level of detail on.
Yeah, and it's
And it
great
just
because it just
looks
lingers there
nasty.
forever.
It does. It does. And so he looks at her and he just screams and runs away.
I think he passes back out again and then just runs away.
You're right.
I love
Actually,
those
no.
moments,
He
though.
goes more blue,
Right,
and then
right. His eyes go across.
have an X over him.
He's
Yep.
done. No, I love those moments though. There's one in I think it's the I want to say it's the third one. No, sorry. It's Nurse Stimpy. So it's the second part of the second episode in season 1, where basically Ren gets sick and Stimpy more or less tries to take care of him, but they do this still shot of Ren's just disgusting, diseased, sick. Like think of the worst flu you've ever had in your life, and you just look like a monster. Like you wake up in the morning and your
the first one of
face
those
is
that I
leaking.
remember, and
Exactly.
that's what I always think of when somebody says, "Man, I'm sick," and I look at him.
And
I
you
go,
see
oh,
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I
You
see Ren from episode 1.
I just
Holy
see
shit.
swollen green pustules on your face. Just
Yep.
gnarly, man. It is gnarly. But it was great because I'd never seen anything like that in animation before, especially on Nickelodeon. I mean, we've talked Doug and Rugrats. This thing is just in a complete other world from those two shows.
It's not like we had 1080p when we were growing up to
exactly.
watch, shows or anything like that. So when you saw the crude animation that was, I'll admit it, barely better than South Park's,
Yeah, kind of
cardboard
pieced
cutout
together.
kind of
Right.
thing.
Well, this is like pre-computers too, I think, for the most part. So.
Right. And so your pre-animation thing that was barely better than your construction paper cutout.
Right.
You look at something that was that detailed and crazy, and it really hammered the point home, because no one had to say, "My God, Ren, you don't look very well," and it would just smash into, here's what it is and here's how he looks, and you immediately got it, because it doesn't matter how old you are, you understand. Damn,
Things are gross.
he's fucked up.
the thing that like blows my mind is that like all of these like long, slow, like detailed cuts that they make in this show,
Mhm.
like a lot of times, we've all like any of the cartoons that we've watched, like there have been like slow panning scenes, or maybe like you see the back of somebody's head that's talking so that they don't have to animate like
Right.
their mouth. And so
Correct.
like this was a cost saving technique, but this was a cost saving technique for Spumco that was actually genius. It's become one of the most memorable things about this show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just like the level of detail, the absurdity, the oddness of it, because you don't see it anywhere else. Just something lingering on a screen in still frame, but on an animated show, and it's just so highly detailed and so freaking gross. And it looks great now in like the digitally remastered versions of these show. I watched them on Amazon. I think you guys said you had the DVDs. Um, but it looks great now. It looked great back then. So yeah, just everything about it was just a fantastic move on their part. I loved it. They do it a little bit throughout the shows too, just to kind of like save on the animation. Like you look at a character and they'll be incredibly still, but like one portion of them will move a little bit, like their eyes might shift back and forth, but the rest of them stays like statue still. And it's just got this
Yeah.
weird quality to it that's just very unique to this show. But I loved it. I'm very happy to say that this held up like I thought it would, and I'm also happy to say that like I'm glad that I remembered these moments and that they kind of like triggered memories just by watching it again. I could remember almost line for line some of this stuff.
So
So
Dave, I'm gonna ask, is this is your endorsement?
oh, absolutely, this is my recommendation. Go
This is your
check it out.
recommendation?
Whether you've watched it before like 20 years ago or whether you've never ever seen it, you definitely have to check this one out just because it's so unique and so strange. I'm probably not gonna say seek out the newer ones like the adult party cartoon, but if you watch the original one, you like it, then
Yeah.
yeah, watch it just for the hell of it and see if you like it. What about you guys?
I mean, and most people have Amazon
Right.
Prime nowadays. So if you have Amazon Prime, it's available on Amazon Prime. All of the episodes that they have access to, you can watch about 3 seasons worth of really entertaining stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to actually go back and watch more of it. It's a little tough to watch in a stretch like I tried to do. I tried to do about an hour and a half of them, and it gets a
Mm.
little. My mind just kind of wears down from the absurdity a little bit. But like an episode or two every once in a while is definitely
Like
something I'm looking forward to.
it becomes less absurd just because you are so conditioned to it
Yeah, or just like my mind
over the course of a
expects.
couple hours.
Yeah, I expect like
Oh,
okay,
calm down, Sam Neill in the mouth of madness. Just relax.
but I don't know what it is.
I will
Just
say,
get it.
I will say, as one parting thought, if we're wrapping this up here,
Mhm.
I did want to mention that I forgot how much classical music was in Ren and
Oh
Stimpy.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, just like the
And
old Looney Tunes, they would work in some
Well,
Wagner
exactly.
and some right.
Exactly, and so I'm growing up watching Looney Tunes, and the Barber of Seville for me always inspires the Elmer Fudd, Bugs Bunny,
Yes.
the two chairs that go infinitely high up into the sky. That cartoon, but I'm watching Ren and Stimpy again as a 28-year-old, and I realize that I hear Claire de Lune
Right.
probably once every 4 episodes. We've got Wagner, we have Grieg, we have the William Tell Overture from Rossini.
Right.
There's that powerhouse song, the
Yeah, there's
all
Nutcracker
of,
Suite
all of the
music in
Looney
there. Right,
Tunes.
right.
Yeah, all of the Looney Tunes and other songs that you grew up with. You know what they mean, and you know what emotions they inspire. But John Kay also used those, and I didn't realize how many of them that he really incorporated into his work until I watched them.
Yeah.
What? 18 years after I first saw them,
Yeah.
maybe.
And the thing
More
is,
than that?
I feel like he twists them too, and you can kind of like, now that we're a little older, we can kind of appreciate that more. That what was maybe
Correct.
used the first time for like a Looney Tunes to just get the point across of whatever the scene was, now you've got that built in, so you expect it, and then he twists it and does something different with it, so your brain just has trouble kind of like figuring what the hell is going on, and it's a great.
That sneaky son
Yeah,
of a
it's
bitch.
great. It's great. It really is. Sean, what about you? What do you
Yeah.
think of your rewatch here? Did it satisfy your worries?
As I mentioned at the beginning, this is the one show that I was nervous that I was the
Anxious,
most
yeah.
excited to watch, but I was also unbelievably nervous. This held up spectacularly,
Excellent.
and like I loved it. Go watch this. Even go watch the Lost episodes. I mean, like they're fun. Like they're just things that are just so bizarre that are just enjoyable to watch. And the one thing that I will bring up that like I know that this was either like a budget or an animation thing, but I want to talk a little bit, very briefly, about Eyelid Gate.
Okay.
Ren Hoek's eyelids in the first like 2 episodes were black,
Yeah, that was
And then
weird.
in other scenes they were reddish, and then it settled like kind of like on
Like a
a
flesh
lighter
tone.
reddish from that point forward.
Yeah.
But like they started out being like this really weird black, and like I don't know what it is, but like I remember seeing it as a kid and having questions about it, and then I remember like as I watched it recently, like this past week, I was just like it came back again, and I was like, oh man, hashtag eyelid gate. So if you wanna get on
Get in on
Twitter,
that.
you start protesting this because there's nothing else going on in the
No,
world
this
right
is
now. So we
important,
should totally
guys.
talk
This
about
is
it.
important stuff. There was, speaking of eyelid gate, and you can lump this in. I'll throw in pupil gate, because there were some moments here where I feel like it was
Yes.
just fucking like just poor quality control, but it creeped me out. There were a couple scenes where like Stimpy would be talking, breaking the fourth wall, talking to the audience, and he would have his normal kind of like fried egg looking eyes, and then they would occasionally disappear and he would just have like these black pits in the center of his face that would just stare out at you, and it creeped me out, and I'm assuming that that was an oversight on the animation department. If they meant to do that, then they are some twisted people, because that was
If you
terrifying.
if you Another fun oversight was Stimpy's Big Day in the second half. Whenever Mr. Horse is doing the sample test on the Gritty Kitty and the other brand name litter
Hmm.
box, he's originally holding up the first litter box, and they ask him to smell it, and then the second litter box, I want to say like the first like it must be like the first. I don't know what frame rate they were working on. Obviously not 60 frames a second, nor was it probably close to like 60 frames a
Right.
second. We're like at
Nothing
maybe like
HD
20 or
porn you're used to.
25.
No, right?
Yeah. So like there were a couple frames when he holds up the second Gritty Kitty litter box where it has the number 1 on it when it is in fact the second litter
Mm.
box, and then it cuts over immediately to 2. And I never noticed this as a kid, but when I was rewatching the episode this afternoon, I was just like, holy shit. Like it's not like I was looking for errors. I was just surprised when I saw it, and I had like I laughed. Like I didn't care. I was like, this show is so fucked up as it is, but it's beautiful.
So what you're saying is the editors rigged the system and Gritty Kitty actually didn't win the contest, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Gritty
all been a
Kitty
farce and a lie.
cheat.
Oh, that's an unfortunate way to end this. Hey, Alex, thanks for joining us today. Do you have any final thoughts about this show? Anything about the show you wanna kind of bring home other than your recommendation? If
um,
not, we'll go on to some plugs here and some
no,
contact info.
actually, I've pretty much covered everything that I thought was phenomenal about Ren and Stimpy, which is a lot, admittedly.
Awesome.
So
Well, hey man, thanks for joining us on the show. We knew you were excited about this one, so we were happy we were able to get you on here.
yes, this
Um,
was
We
this
were
was
excited to have you on,
cool.
man.
yeah, definitely, definitely. This has been good times. Thank you for bringing the old guitar. That was a great way to start the show as well.
What rolls downstairs, a loner in pairs, over your neighbor's dog.
Yeah.
It's on your back, and it's great for a snack. Log, log.
This is like
Where's the internet soundboard with all the clapping? Because that was applause worthy.
that was applause
That's
worthy.
okay.
We'll add it in post. Sean, that's on you. You can add
Yeah,
that
I'm
in
not
post.
adding. I'm not adding.
No worries.
Here's
I'll
your
add
cue.
it,
Here's your
That's
cue.
what you
just
get.
for Alex.
If you want some like add-ons later, that can happen.
Excellent. Yeah, we're gonna do
Yeah.
when we do our live shows. You can come in and do the tribute to all these different theme songs.
I just want a spot on the soundboard, just a button that you press it and
Anything you want.
I
Carte
want
blanche.
it to come out of the speaker.
Carte blanche.
In my worst possible condition. You just press the button and here comes terrible drunk Alex.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we've got recordings of that somewhere. I'm sure we can make that happen.
Guys
Are
and
you kidding me? You have
dolls
recordings, you have pictures, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I sure do.
You and Sean and I have been friends for way too long.
Way too long.
We all
style.
have.
10+ years now at this
I
point.
know. We're putting some
true.
time on this
It is.
friendship. Some stress.
It is, Sean. I've actually been friends with you longer than I've been friends with my wife. Dear listeners, yes, I am married. Surprise, surprise.
That was the next question I was going to ask you, is if you want to tell the listeners whether you're single or not. So
I
you've
was
already
gonna ask if
answered
there was
that.
anything you
Yeah.
wanted. I was gonna ask if
I
there was
doubt
anything you wanted to
anybody
plug.
will come
Heyo.
asking.
Heyo, that's a sex
I
joke.
doubt anyone will come asking.
Hey, you never
but
know. Never know.
No, not
Ren
gonna happen.
and Stimpy groupies out there. Do you want people to talk to you? Like, is there anywhere on social media that they can find you? Do you hang it on Twitter? Do you have an Instagram account? Anything you want to let people know about?
Twitter and Instagram, not so much. No, it's just a.
I'm on the MySpace.
Friendster. Just
That used to
write a
be my
message,
shit.
put it in a bottle, and throw it into the sea. I'll get it.
Yeah.
So nothing.
No, you know what? If they really want to get in touch with me, they can get in touch with you, Dave.
Excellent. That sounds good. How about you, Sean? I know you like talking to the folks out there. So where can they find you?
Hey. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis. I have some shows coming up in the DC area. You can find me performing with Washington Improv Theater's Wintry Roadshow in Adams Morgan within the District of Columbia. That's right, the capital, DC.
Oh boy.
I'll be performing there 7:30 for every single show. I'll be there January 17th, January 24th, the 31st, February 7th, February 14th, and then I will be in San Diego for the San Diego Improv Festival on February 20th. For shows that are in DC, you can find tickets it's Washington DC, or it's witdc.org, and for San Diego,
Fucking suck, John.
sdimprovfestival.com. Fuck that up.
That was all from memory, though, so well done. Guys, Sean is like all over the world. He's blowing up. He's going global, and he's taking SMC with us. So I'm happy that he's doing so well, and I wish him well.
I want to find some type of a fun. If you are a podcast that's in the San Diego area and you would like to have somebody fun on your podcast I'll be there from like the 19th to like the 23rd. Just message me at Sean Paul Ellis on Twitter. I would love to do your show.
Yeah, love to do the show. And speaking of shows, guess what? I'm going to do my plug now.
What shows are you reviewing,
Yeah,
Dave?
you guys already know what's coming. Guess what? Everything is coming back for the second half of this season, the mid-season break. Shows like Gotham is already back, Flash and Arrow come back a little bit later, Walking Dead will be back in February, and Constantine, for its last few episodes most likely, is also coming back on the air. Yeah, but the good news is I review all these shows over at collider.com, so you can come on over there, check out my reviews, drop me a line, and let me know what you think. As far as contacting us for this show, you can head on over to SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. You can also check out Sean's handiwork on our Tumblr page, SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, our handle is @MorningTunes. If you want to drop us a line or a suggestion or maybe a show that we haven't covered yet, send us an email at SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Of course, each and every week we will upload this podcast to iTunes and Stitcher, so you can subscribe through there and hear us every week. We're still rolling out our New Year's Nicktoons. Sean, do you know what's coming up next week for the listeners?
Oh man, this is probably my second favorite
Agreed.
Nicktoon. But next week we are going to be talking about Rocco's Modern Life.
I cannot wait. I need to watch the Missing Gas Cap episode and the Laundry Day episode because those are my favorites.
Laundry Day is great.
It's a
You're gonna
very
be
dangerous day.
satisfied.
Yes, I can't wait. But that's not quite it for this show. Sean, do you have anything else real quick?
No, I was going to simply just outro with turn the page, wash your hands. Turn the page, wash your hands.
Phil, you should have saved it for next week because I've got our outro tonight. We did not talk about one of my favorite songs and moments from this show, so I am going to take this opportunity
Oh no.
to bring to you the royal anthem of the
Are we
Canadian.
ready to join in?
Let me get through the first one, and then
After that?
I'll give you guys a cue, and you can come in, and Sean will have to edit this all together, and it's going to be a nightmare. So let's definitely do that.
Alrighty.
You guys have the lyrics queued up?
I don't need the lyrics.
You don't need the lyrics? Well, I got the time. I'll tell you when to. I'll tell you when to come in, but it's a little bit.
Alright
It's a little
then.
bit. Ready? Royal Canadian Kilted Yaxman Anthem. Here we go.
Woohoo!
Woo! Settle in, kids. Sing along at home.
Yep.
Our country reeks of trees. Our yaks are really large, and they smell like rotting beef carcasses. And we have to clean up after them, and our saddle sores are the best. we proudly wear women's clothing, and searing sand blows up our skirts. And the buzzards, they soar overhead, and poisonous snakes will devour us whole, and our bones will bleach in the sun. And we will probably go to and that is our great reward for
You got it
being
right.
the Royal Canadian Kilted Yaxman. You guys really want to come in here and try that again?
Yes, sir.
Oh boy, here we go.
Do it.
Our
Our
country
country
reeks
reeks
of
of
trees.
trees.
Pick it up. Our yaks are really large, and they smell like rotting beef carcasses. This is gonna be a nightmare. And we have to clean up after them. And our saddle sores are the best. Oh boy, we proudly wear women's clothing, and searing sand blows up our skirts. Oh, just turn it off right now, listeners. And the buzzards, they soar overhead, and poisonous snakes will devour us all. Our bones will bleach in the sun. Woo.
I feel like Dave should just sing as loud as he can, and then we'll just catch up.
Big finish. And we will probably go to
hell.
And that is our great reward for being the Royal Canadian Kilted Yaxman. If you made it through that nightmare song, you are our best friends ever. That was worse than the Tailspin song.
Damn.
3-part harmony.
I actually feel better about myself for fucking up the opening of this. That makes me feel okay.
This is a professional show, and thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Saturday morning cartoons. Peace out.